You want to know what I think would be the most entertaining piece of content I could think of? That would be Trump, Joe Rogan, and Joe Biden on the same podcast, on the Joe Rogan podcast. Now, recently, you probably heard of it. It's been blowing up on Twitter. It's been blowing up everywhere. Tim Kennedy was on Joe Rogan, and it came up during the podcast. He was him and Joe Rogan were talking about just politics like they always do. If you don't know, Joe Rogan's podcast is definitely the most popular podcast in the history of the world. It's one of the best podcasts. It's one of the most real podcasts. It has basically no leanings left or right, although I would argue that it probably leans more left than it does right. But that being said, it's super interesting. One of my favorites. I listen to almost all the episodes all the time. And Tim Kennedy is a good guy that I like to listen to too. And he was on Joe Rogan's podcast recently, and they were talking about this. And Joe Rogan said he would be down to moderate a little debate between Trump and Joe Biden for 4 hours. So his podcasts are pretty much anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. He's basically interviewed everybody, the most high-profile people in the world, all of them. He interviewed Bernie Sanders, so it's not like it's an unprofessional thing to do for these two candidates. I think it would be the most real, uncut, raw thing that you could watch for it, and I think America would be better off for it, and I honestly think it would make people change their mind. That would be the one thing that I would think in this polarized world that would allow people to change their mind and vote for who they thought was actually a real person. And I gotta say, Trump would probably destroy on this, and Joe Biden's not going to go on this. He can't even last for 4 hours on a podcast just talking about thoughts that come up to your mind. Trump does this at every rally, so it's not going to be a big deal for him. And Joe Rogan is not, although he said he was not going to vote for Biden, and specifically because he doesn't believe that it's right to exploit the cognitive decline of Joe Biden. He said he couldn't see himself voting for Joe Biden, but maybe, hey, try and change his mind. Why is it that only Republicans are willing to debate? It's like that here in New Mexico with Ron Ketty and what's that guy's name? Something Lujan. Mark Ronchetti wants to debate, but the other guy doesn't. I don't understand this whole thing about not debating. That's kind of the point of politics. You should actually be able to express your point, convince others of what you believe is true and why you believe that. And I'm just very confused as to why Democrats don't want to debate. Just confusing. If you disagree with me, you're welcome to that opinion. But it looks like, based on everything everywhere, that no Democrats want to debate Republicans. And is that a sign of weakness on that party's point, or is that a scared thing, or is it an actual strategic tactic that they're implementing that they will have a better chance if they don't debate? So, I mean, it's up to debate that. You can go either way here, but let's read on this tweet here. So this is what Tim Kennedy tweeted. On my podcast with Joe Rogan, he offered to moderate a debate between Joe Biden and the real Donald Trump. It would be 4 hours with no live audience, just the two candidates, cameras, and their vision of how this country will move forward. Who wants this? A lot of people want that, honestly. A lot of people want that. If you don't know anything about YouTube and stuff, basically, the Joe Rogan podcast pulls more viewers than CNN, Fox News, all these other people on a regular basis. It's kind of incredible. Like when who did he interview? It was... I forget his name. Very high-profile character. What the heck? The guy, Snowden. He interviewed Snowden. Who's able to do that? So, anyways, I would like to see this happen. I think everybody else would like to see this happen. At the very least, it's one of the best pieces of content you could come up with. So, very entertaining. Very entertaining. But you know what's the cool part about this? Let's go back over here. Look at this. Donald Trump's about it, man. Donald Trump's about it. Let's get Joe Biden on. Let's make this happen. I think the only thing that could happen is good. Unless you don't think Joe Biden can handle it. I don't think he can handle it, but that's why I think it's good. Whatever. It would be an awesome thing. I have this tab pulled up over here. President Trump on Monday jumped on an offer from mixed martial arts commentator and Spotify podcast Joe Rogan to moderate a 4-hour debate with former Vice President Joe Biden. I do, Trump responded on Twitter to a post from Tim Kennedy, the retired MMA fighter. So this is a quote on my podcast with Joe Rogan. He offered to moderate a debate between Joe Biden and real Donald Trump. That's the quote that we read. Rogan and Kennedy were discussing the debate Sunday on the podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. Rogan said that to avoid the bias in the media, he'd be happy to moderate a debate between Biden and Trump. And then Rogan also said, first of all, I want no one else in the room, just the three of us, and you'd have to stream it live so no one could edit it. Yep, I agree. And I would want them to in there for 4 hours, Rogan said. If they wanted to do that, they both wanted to come here to Austin, sit down and debate, I would 100% do it, he continued. He should. He really should. He's actually a very inquisitive person, and he asks really good questions, and he's very curious about a lot of things. So we get a lot of good questions, a lot of stuff that doesn't even pertain to politics. I think why not? Let's do it. Let's send it. Let's go. Just another thing, though, is just why everybody's scared to debate nowadays. Get your opinion. Maybe it's because everybody's scared to be canceled, which doesn't exist. If you don't say you're sorry, how can you be canceled? Anyway, well, that's a whole nother subject for a different day. Anyways, that was all I had on this one. I think it'd be a dope debate. Let's see it happen. Make it happen. If it does happen, best debate ever, best piece of content ever. It's going to be dope. So subscribe for more. I'm going to be reading some more news as it comes out and kind of get my reaction to it, and then also kind of get so you can see where people are coming from. We're not going to use mainstream sources all the time. This one was the New York Post. It's pretty straightforward. There was no bias on this one. But I just kind of want to show you guys what it's like to do your own research and not just listen to CNN all the time. So that's basically the point of this podcast. So subscribe if you're interested for more, and we'll give you more commentary on different subjects all the time. But that pretty much does it for this little episode.